Wait, what the hell? I'm not even holding the controller anymore at this point. Hello everybody and welcome back. My name's Argonaut, and in this one, we're going to be taking a look back at Sonic Generations, the Sonic game that finally had classic and modern Sonic meet, including its development history, story, like that game had a story, and gameplay, as well as my thoughts on it. But before all that, if you like this video and want to see more like it, then feel free to click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And now with that shameless promotion out of the way, on with the video. Originally beginning development shortly after Sonic Unleashed was finished in 2008, Sega wanted to make a game to commemorate Sonic's 20th anniversary. Producer Takashi Iizuka wanted a game that incorporated the best of the series' history, and the team eventually decided to split it into two different playstyles, one focusing on the playstyle of the classic games, and one focusing on the playstyle of the more recent games. Unlike the casual friendly Sonic colors, Sonic Team wanted this game to appeal to its core audience, and so, the new game would be developed with the PS3 and 360 in mind, once again using the Hedgehog engine that was used for Sonic Unleashed. An internal poll was taken to see which stages were the most popular, and Sonic Team even put out an online poll asking fans what their favorite levels were, although the fans at the time didn't even know what they were voting for. The game was originally going to be called Sonic Anniversary, but was later on renamed to Sonic Generations, and on November 11th of 2011, was released for the PS3 and 360, and later on that month, Studio Dimps released a 3DS version of the game that celebrated Sonic's portable history. There was also supposed to be a version released for the Wii as well, but due to the Wii's hardware limitations, that version ended up getting scrapped. But now, with all that being said, let's move on to my first experience with the game. When Sonic Generations came out, I was in college at the time while working part-time at a movie theater to make ends meet, and I had bought Sonic Generations as a Christmas gift to myself, and played the life out of that game. I of course platinumed it, and for years, and I mean years on end, this was my favorite Sonic game of all time. I've probably replayed this game more than any other Sonic game I've ever owned. To me, at the time, it perfectly captured both the modern and classic game styles. And I would eventually end up losing the game by letting a friend borrow it, and over the years, that specific friendship eventually ended in a pretty bad way, while the disc was still at his house, and I just never bothered to ask for it back. But finally, after all these years, it actually got a remaster with the Shadow X Sonic Generations game, which of course I bought on day one. By the way, I can never understand why they decided to go with this box art instead of the one on the reversible side of the case. I always thought that this one just looked better. But anyway, now that I'm taking a look back at it again after all these years, the question I want to ask is, was Sonic Generations as good as I remembered, or was it overhyped? Let's find out as we move on to the story and gameplay of the game. Before I get started with this section, I have to mention that I'm using the Sonic Generations remaster. I know they made a couple of changes to it from the original, some different dialogue here or slightly altered cutscenes there, some of which I'll try to mention, but some I may end up missing, but anyway, it's more or less the same. So now, with that being said, the story of Sonic Generations, if you want to call it that, begins with Sonic showing up to a surprise 16th birthday thrown by his friends. But, just before the festivities truly begin, time freezes and a monster called the Time Eater shows up, turning his friends into statues and throwing Sonic into this white void, where the concept of time and space don't exist, allowing him, and apparently only Tails, to even meet their past selves. And now it's up to both Sonics to rescue their friends and fix reality. For the gameplay of the game, you have two different playstyles. The first one is Classic Sonic, and, well, you know how he is by now. You run, jump, and spin dash. But also new to the remaster, Classic Sonic can now also drop dash. And along with Classic Sonic, you of course get Modern Sonic, who's pretty much the same as he was from Unleashed. Although, I don't know if it's because of the remaster or not, but he controls way better than he did in Unleashed. In Unleashed, the controls for him felt overly sensitive, especially when you were moving slow. Like, Sega put so much effort into how he controls while boosting that it slipped their minds to fine-tune how he controls when you're not. But either way, he handles perfectly fine now. The game gives you 9 levels, one from each main Sonic game, and like I said earlier, these were all chosen by an internal poll and an online poll given to the public. Funny enough, Emerald Hill Zone from Sonic 2 was voted as one of the popular stages, but was left out due to how similar it would have been to Green Hill Zone. And also for the stages of this game, Sonic Team didn't want to reuse any older source code for the levels, so everything for all of the levels were built from scratch and redesigned from the original ones. But the 9 chosen levels for Sonic Generations are Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, Speed Highway, City Escape, Seaside Hill, Crisis City, Rooftop Run, and Planet Wisp. Your goal for each level is the same as usual, just get to the end of the stage. But in Act 1 of every level, you play as Classic Sonic, and in Act 2, you play as Modern Sonic. You're free to play in whichever order you want, and every time you beat both acts to a level, you free one of your friends. And depending on who you play the last act as, you might get a cutscene of Classic Sonic talking with one of the more modern characters, like Blaze the Cat, for example, who's apparently not only alive again from Sonic 06, but came to a different universe just to celebrate Sonic's birthday. But getting back on track, about half of the characters will actually even say something about the fact that they're being saved by younger Sonic, but yet they also really don't seem to notice that he's younger Sonic. Every time you fully beat a stage, you also unlock 10 challenges for the stage, 5 for each Sonic, giving you a total of 90 challenges. These are usually something simple like using a friend's ability to help you reach a goal, or racing a ghost version of yourself to the end. Simple things like that only take a couple of minutes. I mention this now because after every 3 stages, you unlock a boss level, but you can't even access it unless you get 3 keys. And in order to even get those keys, you have to beat at least 1 challenge for each level. Basically, the game does some time padding here, because if it didn't, you'd finish the base story in about 2 hours. But for the bosses of the game, they're all brought back from past Sonic games, but the fights are completely redone. The first boss is Dr. Robotnik, because yes, that's what I call Genesis-era Eggman, and the Death Egg Robot. The second one is Perfect Chaos, who Sonic's able to beat without even having to go super this time around. And the last boss is Eggman and the Egg Dragoon from Sonic Unleashed, who Sonic beats without the Werehog this time. The bosses for the game, while being visually appealing, aren't exactly hard. For the Death Egg Robot, you fight him like how you did in Sonic 2, then you kinda wait around for him to make himself vulnerable to your attacks. And for both Perfect Chaos and the Egg Dragoon, you just kinda boost at them while dodging their attacks until you hit them. But after you beat all the bosses and levels, comes the last stage, which you can't access just yet. That's right, in order to access the last stage, you need to go back and collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds, which is probably the easiest in this game. You get 1 in a cutscene, and you get 1 for every boss you beat. But what about the other 3, you may ask? You have to go back and get them by doing rival fights against Shadow, Metal Sonic, and Silver. When I played these when I was younger, these were actually my favorite part of the game. They're basically mini boss battles against them, although I always hated how Shadows ended. Like, for Metal Sonic and Silver, Sonic beating them makes sense. But for Shadow, he was always supposed to be more like Sonic's equal, so to just see Sonic kinda run over him never sat right with me. But now that we finally have all the Chaos Emeralds, we can finally move forward to the last fight. And surprise, surprise, both Robotniks from the past and present are working together to control it. Apparently at the end of Sonic Colors, while being stranded in space, Eggman stumbled upon this creature that could control time and space, and somehow captured it and turned it into a cyborg he can control. Which is actually pretty dark when you think about it. But anyway, for the last fight, both Sonics go super and team up to stop the Eggmen. And for this fight, it's probably one of, if not the worst supersonic fight I think I've ever seen. The Time Meter has only about maybe 2 attacks, which can easily be avoided with you flying in a circle. Even if you get hit, there's no real consequence. And the game supplies you with an abundance of rings, so chances are you'll never actually run out. You can also switch from fighting it in a 3D to fighting in a 2D perspective, depending on which Sonic you're playing as. I personally always prefer to handle this fight with the modern Sonic over Classic, and to hurt it, you just have to keep boosting at it to eventually hit its core. Do that a few times, and eventually after about 2 or 3 minutes, you'll eventually win. For the end of the game, after beating the Time Meter, Both Sonics and all of his friends get dropped off at the birthday party at the exact moment they left. Time travel, am I right? And both Sonic and young Tails go back to the past. And after the credits roll, we see that Eggman, past and present, got stuck in the void, looking for a way out while arguing with each other. And now, while the main game may be over, there are still a few more things to do. First off, you could still play the rest of those 90 challenges that I mentioned earlier. Beating every challenge in an area will bring more color back to it. And also, whenever you beat a challenge, you can hit this little bell for it to call out a music note that you have to chase down to unlock artwork or music tracks for the collection room. At first, I found these to be a little bit fun, but after a while, chasing down the music notes becomes a little bit annoying to do. And remember the Red Star rings from Sonic Colors? Well, those have been brought back as well, with every stage in the game having 5 Red Star rings hidden throughout, which adds some replayability to the game. Once you collect all the Red Star rings for a level, you not only unlock some more art and music, but you also unlock extra skills which you can buy from the item shop. By the way, something cool about this game is that they actually give you an item shop where you can buy skills that you can equip for either Sonic. You're only allotted 100 points and each skill takes up a certain amount of points, with the more powerful skills obviously eating up more points, so you can't just load up your Sonic with the most broken skills in the game. And after beating the main game, you can even freely use Super Sonic for your characters. Although, obviously, that ability will take up all 100 points, so you can't equip anything else. They even give you 3 saved loadout slots, so you don't need to keep swapping things around whenever you want to change something and swap back. At the end of the day, you don't need to use this feature, because I kinda didn't, but it's still cool that it's here. Also, a new collectible added to the Sonic Generations Remaster are the Chow. In every level, there are 3 Chow hidden somewhere throughout. Whenever you find them, you'll unlock a photo of where you found them at. Now, personally, I found this to be an unnecessary add-on. Like, you're already playing a Sonic game where you're expected to blaze through levels, but to find these tiny little creatures that somewhat blend in the background, making them easy to miss, is just so annoying. And on top of that, they don't even really do anything, which are the type of collectibles I hate the most. It seems like they were added to make players explore levels even more, but didn't we kind of already have red rings for that? And the last thing I want to mention that this game offers is the online ranking mode, where you can play through a level and see if you can finish faster than other players around the globe. I didn't even try this mode, because you just know that... Oh no. Okay, but now with all that being said, let's move on to how the game did after it came out. By April of 2014, Sonic Generations had sold over 3 million copies worldwide, and had received many favorable reviews, for how it combined the best parts of classic and modern Sonic in one game. Interestingly enough, the game actually did get a pre-order bonus in the form of a pinball minigame, which was later on sold separately as a DLC. Which, I mean, why not just make that a timed release and just make it free later on? But, moving on from that, Generations would obviously go on to get a remaster with the Sonic X Shadow Generations game, which was released in 2024 for the Year of Shadow promotion Sega was doing at the time. And now, let's move on to my thoughts about the game. I should have said this earlier, but funny enough, this is actually my second time making this video about Sonic Generations. The first time I tried, I think it was the second video I made on this channel in this format, about 2 years ago. Looking back at it now, I didn't really care for how that video came out, and I'd like to think I got better since then, so I don't mind remaking it for the sake of this marathon. But the first thing I really noticed about Sonic Generations this time around was just how short this game was. I'm typically the type of guy that'll eat all of his fries before I even eat the burger. Meaning, whenever I usually play the game, I typically knocked out all the side missions as I unlocked them before moving on. This time I didn't, and it only took me roughly 3 hours to beat the game. But the game had so much time fluff with all of the side missions and the red rings that I never noticed. Now, earlier in this video, I started off asking, was Sonic Generations as good as I remembered? And my answer to that is yes and no. Now, hear me out. When I was younger, I thought that this was the perfect Sonic game, and I still think that the redesigned levels are a lot of fun and offer a lot of replayability, while hitting you with that sweet, sweet blast of nostalgia whenever you play through them by capturing the playstyles of both Sonics. I can't stress enough just how cool it is that they created variations of the modern stages for classic Sonic, and new versions of the old stages for modern Sonic. Never in my life would I imagine that I would see classic Sonic running through City Escape with the gun truck chasing him. I'm actually surprised that they didn't add a stage for Sonic CD here. I guess that would have made things uneven or something with the stage levels, but I can't help but wonder how they would have handled the Stardust Speedway stage, because we all know that's what they would have picked for modern Sonic. Although I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of Planet Wisp. I don't know. The pacing of that level felt really slow compared to the ones before it. But one of the first issues I have with the game is the camera feels a little bit too close to Sonic. It really would have helped me out sometimes if the camera could have been pulled back by about 20%. It's so close to Sonic at points that I barely have enough time to react if something pops out in front of me or there's a platform that I need to jump on. Next up is the story. Personally, I don't care that it didn't have a great story. I mean, it's a Sonic game. While some of the storytelling can be good at times for Sonic games, the first game was literally fat guy puts wooden creatures into robots to power them. But oh boy, Sonic's friends are truly the south side of worthless in this game. Between them being statues and them being freed, it might as well be the same thing. There's even a point at the end of the game where both Sonics get crushed by a giant hand, and instead of doing literally anything to help, they all just stand around and cheer for him saying he can do it, like they're watching their child's Little League game or something. And that Supersonic boss was miserable. It was like the one unique enemy to this game that they had to make, and they kinda choked on the fight itself. I like the concept of the Time Eater and Sonic fighting it, but the execution was pretty lacking. Also, did you know that there was a grading system for how you finish a level in this game? I never bothered mentioning it before now because this is the point where it became so lenient, they might as well have gotten rid of it. Like, pretty much if you don't die during a level, you're all but guaranteed an A rank minimum. There were some stages that I finished in 4 minutes, which I know wasn't a great time, and still got an S rank. And the same also applies to the side missions. Although, personally in that case, I'm pretty happy about that one, I'm not gonna lie. But those are pretty much all my complaints about the game. I like that you could customize either Sonic with certain moves, and I think out of all the games I played up until this point in the Sonic Marathon, modern Sonic controls the best in this game so far, and they even once again made Super Sonic playable in regular stages. In conclusion, while I definitely still find Generations to be a fun game to play, I can't exactly call it my favorite anymore. But it is obviously by no means the worst Sonic game ever, and will always hold a special place in my heart. And one thing this game actually showed that I never thought about before is that Sonic is technically getting stronger, or rather faster as time goes on. In Generations, he was able to defeat Perfect Chaos on his own. A feat that he needed Super Sonic to do the first time around, he just casually did by himself. Also, I love the Sonic boom sound effect you get whenever you start boosting with him. I don't know if the boost games prior to this one had it, or if I'm just noticing it now, but still, I just love that sound. And those are my thoughts on Sonic Generations, the ambitious title that brought together 2 different Sonics of 2 eras to try to appease to all the fans. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts about Sonic Generations? Is it your favorite title? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. And as always, thanks so much for watching, guys. And here's what's coming up next on our Sonic Marathon.
Nice. Tails, I need to know what's going on with this guy.
I'm trying, Sonic, but these readings are all messed up. They don't make any sense.
Running out of time here, Tails.